I'm Tara Bushnell.
And I'm Travis Linscomb.
And we work for the Upper Guadalupe River Authority.
We have an exciting job and get to spend a lot of time in the rivers, creeks, and streams in Kerr County, making sure our waterways are clean and healthy for everyone.
In our community, we have a clean and healthy river that is full of life. Many different living things call the river home. Organism is another word for living things, and there are many different kinds of organisms. These can be super tiny organisms like bacteria, zooplankton, or algae, or plants like the tallest tree or the smallest flower are also organisms. So are mushrooms, or insects, or frogs, or hippos, or puppies, or even you and me. We are all organisms, and we are all living things. You can describe the world that an organism lives in by talking about its surroundings. This could be the living things around you, like the other people, or the animals, or the non-living things, like rocks and buildings. An organism's surroundings are also made up of man-made things like houses and roads, and natural elements like rivers and wildflowers. When we talk about and describe our surroundings, we're talking about our environment. And this is just another word to mean the world around us. Humans can adapt to many different environments, and during the day, our surroundings can change quite a bit. You might wake up in the warm, dark environment of your bedroom, and then move to a mobile environment like a car or a bus that takes you to the bright, noisy, fun environment of your school. There's a certain part of an organism's environment that provides the things that it needs to survive. This is the part of the environment where an organism finds its food and water and shelter, and we call this place an organism's habitat. There are many different habitats in the world. A mountain meadow filled with grasses might be the perfect habitat for some animals, while others prefer a hot, humid habitat like a jungle. And other organisms might live their whole lives up in the branches of trees, and some live below ground in burrows. Some organisms spend their whole life underwater. There are so many different habitats in the world to learn about, but today we're just going to focus on the habitat of the river. We are very lucky to have a clean, healthy, and beautiful river in our community. Do you know the name of our river? What river is part of our environment in Kerr County? Yes, the Guadalupe River, of course. The Guadalupe River starts in western Kerr County, and it flows from Hunt to Ingram, through Kerrville, down past Center Point, and then continues on past Comfort all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. And even just in Kerr County, the environment of the Guadalupe River can look different from one place to another. And along the way, we find different habitats that are the home to some really cool organisms.
In some areas near Hunt, the river is skinny and not very deep, with steep rock walls on the sides. Other places have wide, flat rock bottoms and super clear, deep water. Some other places are wide and shallow. Some areas have lots of plants growing on the banks and in the river. We also find dams across the river, like in Louise Hayes Park in Kerrville. A dam acts like a wall across the river, and it makes the river slow down, back up, and become deeper. So upstream of the dam, we have a lake environment, and downstream it returns to a narrow, fast-flowing, and shallow river. These are two different habitats for organisms. Some like the lake, and others prefer the river.
The Guadalupe River in Louise Hayes Park is not only an important part of our community, but it's also a great habitat for organisms. So let's take a closer look at the organisms that live in and around the river here. And our favorite kinds of organisms are aquatic invertebrates, or water bugs. So we're going to take an even closer look at some of those too. The lake in Louise Hayes Park was formed when a wooden dam was built across the river over 100 years ago, and it was later replaced by a concrete dam that we see today. So the dam causes the river to slow down and spread out, and it turns it into a lake. And there are certain organisms that prefer that deep, slow-moving, dark water of the lake. So this would be a great habitat for some turtles like a red-eared slider, or fish like a long-nosed gar, or largemouth bass, or even bluegill. And water bugs like the water scorpion and the dragonfly would also be found here. So let's let Travis tell us a little bit more about the dragonfly larva.
This is a baby dragonfly. sometimes called a larva or a nymph. The dragonfly nymph has a unique way of moving through the water. It pulls water into its abdomen and shoots it out. This allows for the dragonfly to jet away from any predators like fish that are trying to eat it.
Now back at Louise Hayes Park. So below the dam, the river is shallow and fast moving and clear, and here you'll find a totally different habitat for organisms. You might see fish like Guadalupe bass, our state fish, or Texas shiners, or an orange-throat darter, or water bugs like the mayfly larva and the dobsonfly larva. So Travis, can you tell us a little bit about the dobsonfly larva?
Well, I sure can, Tara. The dobsonfly larva is also called a helchromite. It lives in fast-moving sections of the Guadalupe River for about 2 years before hatching into the large fly that we call the dobsonfly. You can see here that they have 2 hooks on their abdomen that aid in their movement in the swift waters they live in. How many of you think that these are legs along its abdomen? They're actually not legs, they're called filaments, and they help the helchromite absorb oxygen from the water and aid in swimming.
So many amazing organisms use the Guadalupe River as their habitat, and many of these organisms don't look exactly the same throughout their life. Their bodies undergo changes as they grow. And we call these stages that an organism goes through during its life the life cycle. So some organisms like humans look just a little bit different as they go through their life cycle. We can usually look at someone and guess which life cycle stage they're in, if they're a baby or a little kid or a grown-up or a grandma. But during all these stages, people still look similar. They have arms and legs and they walk upright. Other organisms like a dragonfly look completely different from one life cycle stage to another. The dragonfly life cycle starts when the adult dragonfly lays eggs in the water. From these eggs hatch a dragonfly nymph or larva, and this is what a dragonfly looks like for most of its life. The nymph will live in the river anywhere from a few months to a few years until it develops and is ready to become an adult. And then one day, that dragonfly nymph will crawl out of the river, bust out of its exoskeleton, and emerge as an adult dragonfly and fly away. There are 3 stages in the dragonfly life cycle: the egg, the nymph, and the adult. And 2 of those 3 happen in the river.
Although this dragonfly nymph doesn't look like the adult dragonfly you see flying around just yet, it's looking more and more like an adult every day as it grows inside its exoskeleton. Its wings are folded up inside this wing patch right here on its back. If you still don't believe that this is a dragonfly, check out this awesome video of a dragonfly nymph hatching into an adult.
The dragonfly nymph, helchromite, and all the aquatic organisms we saw today need the clean and healthy habitat of the Guadalupe River to live. Finding them in the river today is one way that we can tell that we have really clean water in our river. Without that, they would not be able to find their food or their water or their shelter, and they wouldn't live here. But what other organisms in our community also need a clean and healthy river? People, of course, we use a clean and healthy river to have fun. We like to go swimming and fishing and boating. And many people also use the Guadalupe River as a drinking water supply. And we all enjoy having a clean and healthy Guadalupe River in our community. It's an important part of what makes Kerr County our home. So let's all do what we can to keep our river clean.